Hello and welcome back to the Mindset Project podcast. My name is Lewis Conde and my aim is to give you the tools to develop and improve your mindset. By drawing on my own experiences as a competitive swimmer, as well as the opinions and experiences of other incredible individuals, I hope to expose you to an alternative way of thinking. And in doing so, I hope that inspires some sort of personal growth. I believe that through mindset development, we can strive physically, mentally and emotionally. I hope you're all doing well, staying positive and staying healthy. So let's get on to it. Hello and welcome back to the Mindset Project podcast, and we are now on to episode 22, and I would imagine that this episode will be slightly short, but I'm not going to make any guarantees. But I do think that the content of this episode will definitely change your mindset or perspective on how you look at life. So I've named this episode The World Revolves Around You because I want to explore a saying I have heard many times and you probably would have heard at some point in your life, which is the world doesn't revolve around you. Now this saying is often, but not always, said by an adult to a child when the child is acting selfish. So they might be a bit inconsiderate of others, or they might be thinking about themselves. So when adults use this phrase, or obviously anyone uses this phrase, it's normally in the context that the world doesn't revolve around the individual it's directed at. But what if I told you that the world does revolve around you? Think about it. Throughout your entire life, right up until this present moment, things have happened to you. People have come into your life. So things are constantly happening around you and things are coming into your life. And when you think about it, that kind of shows that the world does revolve around you. And you are the centre of your world, or if you want to say it, your reality or the universe. So to say that the world doesn't revolve around you is in many ways false. So like on an individual level, we have our own realities, our own worlds, which we're constantly creating with our mind, right? And I have probably mentioned this in an earlier episode, but you're constantly creating your reality from your own thoughts. And this is a bit of law of attraction. You sort of attract what you are, you attract the thoughts, the feelings that you put out into the universe. Because at the end of the day, thoughts and feelings are frequencies, and frequencies attract similar frequencies. So if you're in a state of joy, gratitude, happiness, you're going to attract more of that. And equally, if you're sad, unhappy, trying to think of other sort of very low vibrational frequency feelings, sort of guilt is a great one, you're going to attract more of that. So, you're constantly creating your reality. And this sort of buys into the idea that the world does revolve around you, because how could it not if if it wasn't true, then you wouldn't be able to create your reality, if that makes sense. And I think because of the fact that you can create your own reality, this can actually be quite uncomfortable for many people because they don't like being accountable for the lack in life. And I completely get that. Like, it is far easier to blame someone else for something that you do not have rather than accept it as your own fault. Like, it takes a lot of courage, a lot of strength to accept that you're not in the position where you want to be or where you could be. Like, it takes a lot of courage to admit that. And, maybe as well it could be down to the fact that acknowledging that you're in full control of the creation of your reality, that you actually become so much more powerful because you're actually stepping into your power and you're taking back control of your life. So maybe this power that you get from doing that actually scares people. Like, it could well be that having that power sort of makes people scared, so they don't really want to take on that control. So although on the individual level we have our own realities, our own worlds, whatever you want to call it, there can obviously be overlap. Now, what I mean by this is that you have your own reality, and within that you obviously have your friends, your family, work colleagues, the bus driver you see every day, and they too have their own realities. But it isn't your own unique reality, but you are both part of each other's, if that makes sense. And what I mean by this is, I'm going to sort of help and try and picture what I'm trying to say here, right? So we'll use the bus driver as an example, right? Because that's probably the easiest one to do. Now, you see that bus driver every single morning on your way to work. So it's a constant person that you're going to see in your life. And to sort of illustrate what I'm trying to say here, right, we're going to draw a circle. And this circle represents you, and the circumference of the circle is your reality. So everything within that circle is your reality. Now, if we draw a second circle right beside your circle, but we're going to overlap the circle, that is going to be the bus driver. So when you have the two circles on your piece of paper, both of those circles interlap, or overlap, or intersect, whatever you want to call it. And this is sort of painting the picture of what I'm trying to say. So you have two circles, and each circle is an individual reality. But because you see that person on a daily basis, your realities overlap, but they're still not the same reality, if that makes sense. Now, it doesn't have to be two people, it could be a third person. So let's say you go to work with your work colleague on the same bus. So draw another circle, but that circle has to intersect the bus driver circle and your circle, because that work colleague will be in your reality and the bus driver's reality every single day, because you're constantly seeing each other. And again, that third circle is a different reality. So what I'm trying to say here is that as an individual, we have our own realities, but the people who are in our life have their own realities as well. But we sort of, intersect / overlap our realities. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. And, regarding the saying itself, I'm not a fan, because as I have just laid out, I don't believe it's true that the world doesn't revolve around you. Now, some of you listening right now might disagree, and you might think that I'm being a bit selfish by saying the world revolves around me. Well, not really, because when you realise it happens at the individual level, so for me, for you, your mum, your dad, your boyfriend, girlfriend, etc., it is the opposite of being selfish, because you're acknowledging the fact that we all have different realities, like we have our own wee worlds, and we're all different. And I think that actually helps us to understand people better and actually become, in many ways, more tolerant of one another. And I definitely think that is something that we need more of in this present day. Our opinions and our beliefs are often shaped by things that have happened to us or the experiences we have went through. And most of these are unique to us. Yeah, people might have had similar experiences to us, but it's never going to be our experience of that event. Like, that experience is unique to us, and how we respond to that is also unique to us. Like, even if you experience something with another person, whether that's a friend, a family member, how you both perceive that experience is going to be entirely different. So I'm going to paint a little picture for you again. Let's just say two people are in a car crash, the worst thing that could possibly happen. They both come out alive, they've got a few injuries, etc. One person could potentially come out of it saying, right, I'm actually really grateful that I'm alive, like, this has sort of opened my eyes and sort of made me realise what's important in life and the important people around me, etc. And the other person could actually be very psychologically damaged. They could be suffering from PTSD, or they could just not want to go into the car again because of that experience that they've had. Just makes them extremely fearful of being in a car. Now, obviously, you could literally go wild with the different experiences and the different ways people would respond to a certain experience. But what I'm trying to say here is that one experience can affect people differently, which is what I just sort of talked about. So I think by thinking that the world does revolve around you, you're actually being the opposite of being selfish. And quickly on the topic of being selfish, because I kind of want to sort of talk about this in another episode, being selfish is 100% not a bad thing. Like, for instance, if anyone listening right now is an advocate of self-care or shares posts on social media about the importance of self-care, that is you encouraging being selfish, because self-care is selfish. Because self-care is about putting yourself first in order to heal and to relax, and when things are getting a bit too much for you. So in order for us to take care of our mental health, our physical health, we actually need to be selfish. And it is something that I think some of us should and could benefit from being a little bit more selfish. And at the end of the day, by being selfish and practicing self-care, that allows you to fill up your own cup, which you can then use to help others, which would be a selfless act. So I think being selfish can actually lead to being selfless. So that is us came to the end of this episode. I don't quite know what else I can really say or what else I want to say regarding the world revolving around you. I think the key thing to sort of reiterate is that I'm not trying to say that, when you think the world revolves around you, it's just about you, no one else matters. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that the world does revolve around you to a certain extent, and that when you realise this, and when you realise that your reality, your world is different to everyone else's, that actually helps you have a more outward-looking, open-minded view on life and towards other individuals as well, most importantly. And, like I said, I think having this sort of view actually helps you become more tolerant of other people, because I feel like some people have this view that when people have the view that the world doesn't revolve around you, they sometimes think that we all live in the same bubble. But that is not true, because the people who I have around me right now, and the circumstances I have around me right now, are not the same as the people who are around you right now, or the circumstances around you. So you can't really say that we all live in one bubble, because we don't. We all have different realities. We all have different worlds that we live in. We all lead different lives. So the world does revolve around us as individuals, because how could it not? Do you know what I mean? So I definitely think, this might be quite controversial, but I do hope that you sort of think about this and think, yeah, maybe he's right. And I guess obviously the aim of this podcast is to change your perspective, change your mindset about life and everything around you. So I definitely think that this episode should have done that. If not, let me know, because obviously I'll be doing something wrong, but hopefully it has. And yeah, and finally, with everything that I do, I don't aim to be offensive, I don't aim to offend anyone, but if there is something in this episode where it sort of triggered you or made you sort of feel something, like, acknowledge that feeling, ask yourself why you feel like that, because perhaps that sort of feeling of being triggered could be the key to changing your perspective, changing your mindset. And I would like to explore being offended at a later date in another episode, but that is for another day. So that is the end of this episode, and all I can really say is stay safe, stay positive, and I shall see you on the next one.